And joining us now, he is the head coach of the Auburn Tigers, fresh off an NCAA tournament appearance there with the Tigers in the regionals. I speak of Mickey Dean, who we are glad to have back here on In the Circle. How you doing, Coach?
Doing well. War Eagle.
War Eagle indeed. What's it been like to have a fall ball again? I tell you, it's been huge. The amount of interest that fans and everybody's had this year in fall ball, attendance up, people streaming games, social media with recaps and updates. Have you been impressed by how big that fall ball is after what we went through last year?
Yeah, we had some of our biggest fall ball crowds we've had. Um, it was good for the kids too. You know, you have a we have a pretty good following, but our fall ball crowds this fall were really much larger than normal. And it's good for our kids to get out and be able to experience playing against someone else in the fall. You know, we have I think 10 freshmen, so it was really good for them to get up there and to really experience it. We really tried to make the later fall ball game seem a lot more game-like as far as introductions and everything we were doing. So it's a good experience for them.
What'd you learn about your team so far this fall? What have you learned?
They're hard workers, to be quite honest. We gave them a big challenge in the weight room with some things and in conditioning, and been very pleased with how they've been able to meet that challenge. We went for the first 2 or 3 weeks where we did no softball. We spent our time in the weight room and conditioning so that when we did get out on the field, they were able to notice the difference. And I think that had a huge impact, because when they did get out on the field, they did notice a difference in some of the things that we were going to ask them to do. And so to really have them buy into that weight room and do some of the things that they've been doing, it's been very pleasant to watch.
You had a young team last year, and you just mentioned you got 10 new faces, freshmen. What is that like to have this kind of a young roster? Because you made some big steps last year. You made the tournament. I covered you in the Tallahassee Regional, which, you're arguably 2 pitches away from maybe being in the winner's bracket, maybe winning that regional. I mean, that's how close it was. It was frustrating, but yet you gained a lot of experience with this young team, especially in the pitching staff.
Yeah, especially the pitching, because we basically had 3 freshmen getting the majority of our innings last year, and to have that under their belt, that year under their belt, we're able to play in the postseason. Hopefully that's going to be a huge benefactor of those. And of course, this year we have, I think it's 18 freshmen and sophomores, but they're talented. And our upperclassmen have done a really nice job of leading the way, because, the weight room is kind of new to them and how we're working it and how the emphasis we're putting in. So they've done a really nice job of leading the way there. But yeah, postseason was very important for us last year, as young as we were in the circle, and I think it's gonna pay dividends this year.
Let's start talk about your staff, because that's where a lot of the headlines are going to be made. People talk about Shelby Lowe, Maddie Penta, the great years they had. I've asked you about them last year. Kind of reminded me of Jalen Ford, Megan Good, what you had at JMU, and you kind of agreed. You thought that experience of them pitching in the postseason and an SEC tournament and the NCAA regionals in Tallahassee goes a long way. What have you seen from them this fall that seems to, as that progress continues for them?
Well, for me, I was excited last year at the end during their exit interviews going into the summer, because I see things and notice things. Do they see them and notice them? And a lot of the things that were brought up in those meetings were brought up by them, not me. And so they did recognize, and they knew what they had to work on over the summer and this fall. It wasn't like me having to sit there and tell them what they needed to work on. They had the recognition to know. And it's different for each one of them. And so when it's different for each one of them, maybe one of them gets it, maybe two of them gets it. But we had all four pitchers get it. I mean, it was truly remarkable to sit there and listen to them and say, look, I did a good job here, but I got to work on this. I need improvement in this. And it was like, wow, this is awesome. And I know they put the work in over the summer, because I could tell when they got back here in the fall that they had put in the time. And to have a group of young pitchers do that, that excites me. So it was a good fall for our pitchers. They commanded the zone really well. I think we gave up one earned run this fall. So, and we put them in some difficult situations. We didn't always just start the innings off with nobody on base. We would put runners on first and second, or we would load the bases, have the other team load the bases. And so we threw some pressure in, and they responded.
Is this the deepest pitching staff you've had as a head coach? Shelby and Maddie will get a lot of attention, but you mentioned you got a lot of arms coming back that have great talent too, that got experience and did some good things.
Yeah, I think this is a very deep staff. I thought my first year here we had a deep staff. I thought my last year at JMU we had a deep staff, and we have a deep staff this year. And when I say deep, you can have 20 pitchers or 20 throwers. We've got 4 kids that can go out there and win a ball game against anyone at any time. And to be able to have that, I think, especially for as young as we are, is going to enable our kids to relax. They're not always going to feel the urgency or the pressure or the stress. We like pressure. We always want to feel urgency, but we don't want to feel the stress from that. And that was one of the things I've noticed even in our squads. Our hitters were able to relax and swing the bat.
You mentioned your hitters. You put up some good numbers here, it looked like from afar in the fall. How has that come along the offensive side? Who are some of the players that have stood out that you think will lead your offense this year?
We've had many, to be quite honest. I think everybody's had a good day, and some had a good weekend, and some had a good entire fall. But I think it starts with Michaela Packer and Sydney Cox. They've been very, very consistent from the beginning to the end. Lindsay Garcia has shown a tremendous amount of power this fall. And so she's one that has really gotten excited about the weight room and really run with it, because she's starting to notice it. Those fly balls that were aiming at the warning track, the outfield was catching them. Now they're leaving the park on a regular basis. And then Maddie Majors has really been swinging. Carly McConaughey had a tremendous fall. Both of them had great falls. And then our freshman Nelly Peralta, we batted her 2 in our lineup this fall. We batted Aubrey Lisenby 3 because they handled the bat so well and they have very good pop. Rose Roach swung it extremely well. Rose was mainly a short game kid for the most part, but she roped some balls off the fence this fall, and even in our interstates. So that was good to see. So I think we have a good mixture of power. You got Bree, Ellis, Jesse Blaine, those power kids. Then you've got those kids who are consistent, like the Rose Roach, Aubrey Lisenby, Nell Peralta, who are kind of consistent. And you've got those speed kids, like an Addie Smith. So we've got a good mixture out of that freshman class. We really filled some spots that we needed to fill, and with impact players. You're always developing, but there are kids that can step in and play now and have an impact. And that's what we were looking for. And of course, we're going to have Denver Bryant healthy this year. She wasn't healthy last year. She's a dynamic player, a lot of power in her bat, can do things in the infield that a lot of kids just can't do because of her power.
It sounds like with the recruiting now, it's starting to kick in, because people forget when a coach comes into a program, it takes them a couple years before you start seeing the players that they're recruiting come in there. I'm sensing that the pieces are starting to fall in place here, where, on schedule here, you've done some good things, but now you're even getting the talent personnel where you want it to be. Is that accurate?
Yeah. I would say, it's like putting a puzzle together, and you got to make sure the pieces fit. You just can't throw it out there. And the pieces are really starting to fit nicely together. I think we've been extremely competitive in the circle. We've been a pretty good defensive team, but we've had that ebb and flow, that just not that jump out gotcha offense. And I think we have the potential for that with this group.
Do you have vocal leaders on the team already established? Is that something that evolves in the fall? Who are some of the vocal leaders that, if you have them right now, or is that still kind of ongoing with so many young faces?
Well, I think that's always continue to be ongoing, but we do have some kids that step up and lead in a vocal way. Lindsay Garcia does a nice job of that. Aspen Godwin does a nice job of that. But then we have those quiet leaders, which you can tell they're leaders because when they say something, people listen and they respond to it. Like a Sam. When Sam speaks, people listen. When Carly McConaughey speaks, people listen. Maddie Majors, who's very quiet. So when she's going to say something, it's important. And then we're starting to see that out of some of our younger players too. And we try to give them opportunities to step in and be those leaders at different points, because it's going to take all of it. It's going to take all of it. And we want to make sure that our key, whether it's offense, defense, pitching, on the field, off the field, our key is communication. If we're always communicating, we're going to be just fine.
I remember asking you in Tallahassee after the last game there that you were hoping that the players that come back would kind of take this with them and, get that hunger and make them, kind of chip on the shoulder. Have you sensed that? I think you mentioned that you like, Shelby and Mag leading the way, but have you sensed that from the players that there's that, hey, we were that close in a regional that was won by a team that was one win away from the national title. We weren't that far away. You sense that from the returners?
I think there's a lot of chips on the shoulder with our hitters. I really do. When you lose 15, 17 one-run ball games, you go 1 and out at the SEC tournament. You have 2 one-run losses in postseason. There's definitely a chip there, and you can see it. And we just need to make sure that we continue to carry that chip.
When you have a young roster, last year, you even mentioned about patience, because these are young players. They're 18. They're figuring it out on the fly. As a coach, how do you kind of stay patient with them? Because, like I said, they're young. They're growing on the spot, on the job, if you will, especially with such a weird year last year with everything going, adversity you had to deal with off the field with protocols and things like that. That growth will pay off long down the road. But how do you stay patient in the moment?
I think, I think there are certain things you're patient with. And there are certain things that you intentionally cannot be patient with. Hustle, how we treat each other, how we speak to each other. There can't be patience with that. That has to be immediate. Are we going to make a mistake? Yes. How did we make that mistake? Did we make that mistake being tentative? Did we make that mistake because we weren't communicating with our teammates? Those key things you don't have patience with. And they can't afford to have patience either with that. But if you're busting your butt and you make a mistake, okay, that's okay. If you make a mistake, you communicated everything, bum, bum, but the ball just didn't bounce the right way. Okay, we get that. We give a hit and run, all right? And the runner takes off, the batter swings, and they miss it. They miss it. Okay, we can live with that. What we can't have is the runner taking off and the batter not swinging because they didn't like the pitch. That can't be tolerated. And, you know, it's like I told them, as a coach, there doesn't need to be all that yelling and screaming and all that stuff. We're just going to set you. You know, we're going to give you a break. And what we want to see is we don't want to see the same lack of focus mistakes over and over. Then that's when we have to bring that to a head and take care of it. And our kids have done a really good job of recognizing it. You know, but sometimes I think when you have a young team, you spend a lot of time trying to direct them. You know, you got to do this, that. Well, you can't get out there on the field and spring and play for them. So you have to allow them to make some mistakes. You have to put them in position to make mistakes. And I told them, if we're never making mistakes, we're never learning. You know, sometimes the only time you ever learn is when you make a mistake. Then you can correct it. I told them, I want you to make so many mistakes this fall that it's going to make our head spin. But I want you to do it wide open, because we can always correct it.
Well, and that was always something that's always been part of your teams, right? Play with no fear, play with confidence. You know, and that's a big factor as a coach, is you want them to play freely, you know, and be aggressive, and that you can accept the results after that.
Right. We recruited each and every kid now, and we recruited them because of their athleticism. We recruited them because of the way they swing the bat. We don't want to change any of that. We want you to go be you. Now we have a structure and a way that we do things. Go do them. Just go play. Nobody gets in your way. If there's a door in your way, you kick the damn thing down. You get to another door, you kick the damn thing down. You just keep kicking down doors and knocking down walls. And don't let any of that stuff stop you.
No question. We're speaking with Mickey Dean, head coach at Auburn, here on In the Circle. I want to ask you about Emily Carosone, who I followed as a player, obviously. She's on your staff now, so it's a volunteer. Now is a full-time assistant, a couple of years now. Talk the impact she's had on your staff and on the program as a coach now, full-time. What has that been like?
Well, I think she can speak from experience. There's a female softball player who played at Auburn, who's played in the Olympics, who's played in the pros. And, you know, Emily is not 6'2". She's not a home the first 2.6 player. She was never that player. But I got to kicked down a lot of doors and knocked over a lot of walls. And so I want them to get that, to take that from her as a player, not just as a coach, but as a player.
What was it like watching her in the Olympics?
It was awesome. I was excited that she was just going to get to experience that. And, you know, I had to set up till 2, 3, or 4 o'clock in the morning sometimes to watch her play. But you know, I was proud of her. I thought she did a great job, and she was a huge asset to that team. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was it was awesome to watch her lead Team Italy there. It was pretty awesome. Couple last things before we let you go. Your thoughts on where college softball is headed right now? There's so much conference realignment going on. I mean, it's wild to even keep track. The SEC will be growing in a few years. I mean,
whatever we talk about today, it's going to change tomorrow.
It's wild. I mean, do you sit back and just wonder, like, wow, this is wild stuff?
Yeah, it's moving at light speed. It's moving at light speed. And you know, I think we need people with that foresight. I think our coaches in our conference and our leadership in our conference does a good job of recognizing where the game is going and where it needs to go. And I really enjoy listening to our coaches and our leadership talk about the game. we have a lot of wise people in our conference here, and you know, the game is moving at light speed. It really is. Technology, rules, recruiting, just everything is moving at light speed. So I try not to, I think in order to be a good coach from this point and moving into the future, you have to be someone who is capable of making those adjustments and figuring out a way to make your program better with the changes that are going on, and not sitting around, when I started out coaching, well, nobody really cares. So I think you have to listen. And I'm probably one of those guys that does a lot more listening than I do talking, because I want to listen to what people are saying and take it in. Want to digest it a little bit, and then I want to figure out a way to use it to my advantage into our programs. But for us to sit here and talk about where we see the game going, Lord have mercy. We can have this conversation on a weekly basis.
That's true. That's true. Trust me, our show's been full with that over the coming last few weeks, and probably will continue to be. So you're correct on that. Two last things. I would be remiss. James Madison making it to the Women's College World Series, and Megan Good was at the World Series. They all talked about you and Lauren, and all building that program from where you were and to get to that point. As someone that was watching it, happen, was there a part of you that got emotional watching them taking that step to, and being a part of that, helping build that program?
Absolutely, absolutely, without a doubt. My family, my grandfather ran on both sides. My dad, they were all construction workers. They were stonemasons and they were carpenters. And the one thing you want is when you build something and you walk away from it, you want to be proud of it, and you want it to be. You want the next person who owns that house or whatever to build upon it, make it even better, and get stronger. And it was a true joy to see those kids and that coaching staff take that step. I've always said JMU was going to get to the World Series. There was no doubt in my mind that eventually sometime they were going to get to the World Series, because they just kept knocking on the door, and they hadn't figured out just quite how to take that foot and smash that door in, and they did. And they did it with a great staff, and they did it, with the leadership of Odyssey. I thought, I had to stop on the side of 81. I was on my way back to Virginia, and I had to stop on 81 to watch that last little bit of that Missouri game, because I thought that was really, that she could have just done a nosedive there, and she didn't. And you could see it in her face. So I know I keep rambling on. I was proud. I was proud of them. I was ecstatic for them. I know how hard they worked. I know the time they put in, the blood, the sweat, and to see them do that was a lot of fun to watch.
It's been incredible, and you've been fortunate. You've coached in two great states for softball. Virginia is a hotbed for softball, as you know very well, and of course, you're in the state of Alabama, which has been incredible. What's it like coaching in those type of states, in Alabama and Virginia, where softball, there's so much passion for softball at all levels?
Well, I think the key is you've got to recruit the best players in the state, and that's sometimes easier said than done. And then, what is unique about it is just the support you get. It doesn't matter who we're playing. When we walk out there, we know it's going to be packed. It's going to be packed. And for a young female to walk out and to be able to play in front of crowds like that's a lot of fun. That's a lot of fun, because it's all about the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And it was a great atmosphere at James Madison. It was unbelievable. And it's a great atmosphere. Unbelievable. and a lot of knowledgeable people, and then a lot of people who want to be knowledgeable.
Yeah, that's true. That's clear lane line. Now, last part here with this team, obviously with a great fall, what are the keys between now and February, and then once you get into the season, to have the success and accomplish your internal goals you have for the team and they have internally there for this team?
I think we need to continue to get stronger and faster and work on our bodies so that, just like sitting in with the pitchers, I was like, you want to go to the World Series? I said, you're tired right now, aren't you? And they're like, yeah, we're tired. I'm like, well, imagine having to pitch anywhere from 15 to 20 more games, because that's what it's going to take, to put yourself in position. And so we have to continue to work on that. We really do. And then stay healthy, stay healthy and knock on wood. We haven't had the best of luck. We lost to Taylor Martin. We got off to a great start that 1 year, and Michaela got injured. So, you have to stay healthy. And I think you see the teams that really work on those things and are able to stay healthy. You count your blessings.
Yeah, count the blessings, and we're excited to see your team play. I think you're going to be in Clearwater. I know that they announced that recently. So you're sounds to me you're testing yourself pretty good right off the bat. That'll be the second week of the year to be a part of that premier tournament over there in Clearwater, which will be carried by ESPN and their family and networks. But that's a great tournament for your team to be a part of.
Absolutely, it's going to be like a super regional atmosphere. Like playing a 3-game series in the SEC. Because that's like playing a super regional every weekend. And so they get that experience before we actually get into the SEC play. They need to experience it. They need to see it, feel it, taste it, and then let them get thirsty with it and roll in.
Yeah, it's a great test to know where your team is at, and like you said, get you set for the SEC. Mickey Dean, Auburn head coach, joining us at In the Circle. Coach, thank you so much for taking the time. I know it's a busy time, but I appreciate you always coming on the show. We enjoy having you on, and we'll definitely talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Appreciate you having us. War Eagle.